Husband cheated on me with his gym girlfriend. They also tried to destroy me, but what I did next put them both to ruination.
I'm Chloe, 27F. Today I'm going to tell you how my life plunged into hell, all because I was foolish enough to trust a man. This is a long story, but I hope you'll stick with me until the end, because it's not just about betrayal, but also about my journey to battle my own demons. I'm an obstetrician nurse, and I absolutely love my job. The feeling of witnessing a tiny new life come into the world, seeing the joy on mothers' faces, and being a support person to help everyone stay safe is a huge source of happiness for me. Sounds ideal, right? But life isn't a dream, my friends. I've been married to Mark for 3 years now. On the outside, we seemed like the perfect couple, but deep down, I always carried a terrible complex about my appearance. After we got married, I gained a lot of weight due to my demanding and irregular work schedule as well as household chores. I simply had no time to exercise or diet. This made me feel ugly and useless. But I always thought that as long as I had recognition and love from my husband, Mark, I would be fine. The problem is, I didn't know that my own insecurity was exactly what the man I loved most would exploit.
My husband is really good at making money. Most of our family's finances over the past few years have been prosperous thanks to him. As for me, I genuinely work out of passion because my profession, to be honest, doesn't really pay that well. For a while, he, like me, buried himself in work and his career advanced very quickly. Lately, it seems his work has stabilized. Mark started dedicating his time and throwing himself into intense gym workouts. He would brag to me about his muscles and his six-pack. And of course, I was happy for him, but it only made me even more self-conscious about my own body. Mark wasn't cold towards me at all. In fact, he often encouraged me with caring remarks like how I should eat healthier or that he'd prefer to see me a little more toned. He's never been very subtle, but I always thought he only said those things because he cared and wanted me to improve. However, those words only sowed more insecurity and gradually eroded my last bit of confidence. After a while, Skylar began to appear in our picture. She was Mark's gym buddy. From the very first introduction, I found Skylar terrifyingly beautiful and slender, a complete contrast to me. Not only that, but she also acted overly intimate with Mark right in front of me. The first time Mark invited her over for dinner, Skylar kept touching Mark's arm, giggling at inside jokes only the two of them understood. I felt like I had become invisible in my own home. My heart kept aching in waves and the feeling of unease grew. I tried so hard, gathering all my courage to confide in Mark about how I felt. I told him I wasn't comfortable with Skylar being so intimate with him. When I said that, he just told me I was too sensitive, overthinking things, and that I was his only woman. Hearing those words, I genuinely believed my husband, thinking he understood me. Looking back now, I feel so foolish, so easily led on. The truth is, life is never that simple. Perhaps fate wanted me to face the truth, no matter how terrible it was. So one day my shift was unexpectedly canceled. When I got home, I felt a strange sensation. Everything in the house was eerily silent. In the garage, I saw a strange pair of sneakers sitting there. My heart seized up. A cold shiver ran down my spine. I tiptoed from the garage into the house, each step light, as if I was afraid of shattering the frightening silence. Then, step by step, I went up to the second floor. The bedroom door was slightly ajar, and then the scene that unfolded through the gap in the door. It's been burned into my mind ever since. Mark and Skylar. They were having sex on my marital bed, the bed that Mark and I had chosen together where we slept every night. Right above the headboard was our huge wedding photo. That sight, it was like a punch straight to my face, to my heart. Everything around me spun and my mind went blank. Then I heard Skylar whisper, her voice breathless but full of contempt. "She looks like a fat whale. He must be sick of her, right?" When my husband heard those words, he just let out a disdainful laugh and replied to Skylar, "Why even mention her? She's not worth talking about. She's boring, only cares about her job." Every single word they uttered was like a razor, cutting straight into my heart. In that moment, I felt my entire world crumble beneath me. It wasn't just betrayal, it was ultimate humiliation and contempt. I don't know how long I stood there, but then, accidentally, I dropped the key I was holding. The sound of metal hitting the dry wooden floor echoed. Mark and Skylar flinched and turned around. In that moment, I wish I could just disappear into thin air. Mark looked at me.
He wasn't scared or surprised at all. His gaze at that moment, I will never forget it. All it conveyed was coldness, shamelessness, defiance, and not an ounce of remorse. Then he blurted out, his voice dry and emotionless, "Well, you found out, did you? What a drag, isn't it?" As for Skylar, she just smirked contemptuously, as if I were nothing but a fool. I was stunned, speechless. My limbs trembled uncontrollably. Then I turned and ran from that hell, ran from the house that was once my home, ran from those two disgusting people. I rushed to my car, tears streaming down my face, blurring everything. I just drove, not knowing where I was going, only knowing I had to get as far away from that place as possible. It felt like the whole world was turning its back on me. I was completely disoriented. I just kept driving from one road to another, sobbing uncontrollably until my eyes were swollen and my head was spinning. Finally, after hours of wandering like a lost soul, I pulled up to the house of Sarah, my best friend, someone I always trusted. But at that moment, I didn't have the courage to tell her the whole truth. I just made up a story saying that Mark and I had a big conflict and I needed some space. Sarah looked at me with worried eyes but didn't ask too many questions. She simply hugged me tightly and welcomed me into her home. I was so grateful to her. It was the only place I felt safe at that moment. During the following days at Sarah's house, I tried to live normally. I continued to go to work, putting on a facade of being fine, forcing a smile with everyone at the hospital. But inside, I was fighting a constant battle. The images and words from that day haunted my mind like a horror movie playing on repeat. I blamed myself for being useless, ugly, and not earning enough money, which was why I was deceived like that. I struggled, couldn't eat or drink, and felt nauseous at the sight of food. I rapidly lost weight, becoming gaunt, but that was nothing compared to the shattered soul within me. Every night, I only managed a few hours of sleep, and every dream was a nightmare. At the same time, Mark didn't leave me alone. My phone kept ringing with his calls and messages. He pretended to be worried, asking where I was, why I wasn't coming home. He put on an act of being a devoted husband, but sometimes, amidst his charade, he would even threaten to tell my parents if I didn't come home and change my mind, as if I were the one at fault. The feeling that I had married such a cruel and controlling person was slowly suffocating me, making it impossible to breathe. At that moment, I truly thought I had hit rock bottom. Day after day, the pain gnawed at me, bit by bit. Every day at work, seeing happy mothers with their children and husbands, seeing complete families, I felt like an outcast, a pathetic failure. I didn't know what to do about Mark, how to face that disgusting truth. Every morning I woke up was torture. Every night I closed my eyes was a nightmare. Then one day, I couldn't take it anymore. Both my body and mind felt like they were about to explode. I thought, that's it, let's end it all. And the only place I felt safe to do it was the hospital. At least here, everything would be quick, and more importantly, Mark wouldn't be able to be involved or benefit from my death. I found an empty staff lounge, a place I knew few people frequented. My hands trembled and my heart pounded as if it wanted to burst from my chest. I was ready for the end, which I thought was the only way out. But then, just at that moment, fate intervened. Ethan came crashing in. He was a male colleague from the emergency department, someone I only exchanged polite greetings with. He always exuded a friendly and perceptive aura, but I never imagined that his perceptiveness would save my life. I don't know when Ethan arrived or what he saw, he just suddenly burst in, his face filled with worry, and stopped me just in time. He held me tightly, without saying a word, just holding me. And then, all the walls I had tried to build suddenly crumbled. I broke down. I completely collapsed in Ethan's arms. Tears streamed down like a river. I just cried and cried, sobbing for all the pain and resentment I had harbored for so long. Ethan just held me, comforting me, whispering words of encouragement. And in that moment of crisis, I couldn't keep my secret any longer. I blurted it out, every word broken. I can't take it anymore. He cheated on me. I don't know what to do. I just want it all to end. It was the weakest cry for help I could utter, but it was also the beginning of a fragile glimmer of hope. Someone had seen me. Someone had pulled me out of the darkness.
Ethan just sat there with me. After he saw I had calmed down a bit, he asked if there was anyone trustworthy I could call. And he called Sarah. When Sarah arrived at the hospital and saw me in my pathetic, trembling state, she was shocked. Ethan stayed by my side, comforting me, and this time I couldn't hide it anymore. With Ethan's support, I finally confessed the entire story to Sarah. I told her everything, holding nothing back. Every word spoken was a stab to my heart, but at the same time, it was a burden lifted. Sarah was deeply shocked after hearing everything. Her face shifted from worry to anger. The indignation in her eyes burned clearly. She squeezed my hand tightly, and though her voice trembled, it was firm. "Chloe, you're not alone. I'll never leave you alone again." Hearing those words, I was so touched. Sarah truly is my best friend. And Ethan too. He looked at me with sympathetic eyes, and even though he was just an acquaintance, he said he would support me if I needed anything. They told me I deserved a better life, that I deserved justice. In that moment, I felt a glimmer of light in my life. There are still truly good people in this world, and I knew I no longer had to face the darkness alone. A few days later, I regained a semblance of calm. I knew I couldn't keep hiding. I had to face Mark. Though my hands still trembled, I told myself I needed to be strong. And when I confronted Mark, guess what? He showed no remorse, none at all. Instead, he completely denied everything. He told me I was delusional, that I'd gone crazy from work, and was fabricating a ridiculous story out of a friend simply visiting. He gaslighted me shamelessly. And it didn't stop there. Mark even tried to flip the blame back onto me. He asked me where I'd been all those days, neglecting our family and leaving him so lonely. Hearing those words come from his mouth, I felt disgusted. Just then, as if on cue, Skylar unexpectedly appeared. I don't know if Mark had called her to be a witness or if she had already moved in with him, but the moment she walked in, with that arrogant smile on her face, I knew she knew everything. She looked at me, then calmly said, "I knew it, she'd make a scene. What an unreasonable woman." I stood there, facing two people so shamelessly disgusting that I was utterly horrified and speechless. A traitor and a homewrecker, daring to mock and humiliate me. Everything was crystal clear. I realized I couldn't reason with people who had no conscience. That was the moment I knew this fight wouldn't be easy. But I decided I wouldn't just let them do whatever they wanted. True to my word, I found a divorce lawyer. She was sharp, strong, exactly the shark I needed. As soon as she heard my story, she analyzed the situation clearly and committed to helping me get justice. Then came the dreadful day I had to face Mark at the lawyer's office. I sat there next to my lawyer, across from Mark and his lawyer. Mark was still the same. He showed no remorse whatsoever. He sat there smirking, with a defiant look in his eyes, as if he were the victor. He looked straight at me, his voice full of contempt. "You have no savings, and your income is pathetic. How do you think you'll survive after leaving me, Chloe?" He even added, "You have no proof, and no one will believe a crazy woman like you." His lawyer was no different. She declared that she would fight to the end to prevent Mark from having to split any assets, claiming that I was the one who had abandoned my husband. She even made false accusations about my mental health to discredit me. They tried to deny everything, slander me, and make me out to be insane. The very place that was once my support system was now stabbing me in the heart. In reality, at that time, I was already in severe financial distress. As soon as I left home, Mark had withdrawn all the money from our joint account and frozen all shared credit cards. I had not a single penny to my name. All my expenses during those past days had been covered by the help of Sarah and Ethan. I felt so useless, like a burden. But precisely because of that, I became even more determined. I couldn't let Mark and Skylar win so easily. This battle had only just begun. And as if to test my resolve, Mark and Skylar launched the brutal, destructive campaign they had meticulously planned. They wanted to utterly ruin me. It was then that I was hit with a shocking truth. Skylar wasn't just my husband's mistress, she was also a colleague at the very hospital where I worked. Can you imagine? She started spreading rumors everywhere about me having a mental illness, claiming my husband left me because of my strange personality.
Not stopping there, she deliberately made my work difficult by swapping my patient files or intentionally messing up my shifts so I would get reprimanded. Everything was designed to make me look like a crazy and irresponsible nurse. Meanwhile, Mark wasn't idle either. He constantly sent anonymous threatening messages and calls to the hospital's board of directors, accusing me of having psychological issues and being incompetent. He even had the audacity to show up near Sarah's house where I was staying to stalk and intimidate me. Being deliberately destroyed by the person I once loved most wore me down to my very core. Under the pressure of these rumors, false accusations, and the trouble Skylar caused at work, eventually the worst happened. I was suspended from my job at the hospital pending a review. That was a devastating blow, my friends. Not only did I lose my sole source of income, but I also lost the thing I was most proud of, something I had dedicated so many years to. And then even our mutual friends turned their backs on me. They believed Mark's lies, believed the rumors Skylar spread on social media. Yes, it wasn't enough in real life, I wasn't spared online either. People I once considered close suddenly became strangers, even shunning me. I was completely isolated. No job, no money, no friends. It all felt like a bottomless pit trying to drag me into despair. But no, I refused. I couldn't just let them trample all over me like that. I had to stand up. Just when I thought I was at rock bottom, something incredible happened. Throughout the process of my lawyer working and Ethan digging for information to find evidence against Mark, we found something anyone could have suspected but never dared to imagine. It turned out that Skylar was actually the wife of David, one of Mark's best friends from college. Mark had even been the best man at David and Skylar's wedding. I was so shocked I couldn't believe my ears. My husband's close friend was the husband of the other woman. It was absurd, yet the truth was starkly undeniable. When I learned the shocking truth, I, under the advice of my lawyer and with Ethan's encouragement, decided to contact David and tell him everything. At first, David was devastated. He couldn't believe what I was saying and even got angry, thinking I was fabricating things to break up his family. But, the truth can't be hidden forever. After investigating and digging up more evidence himself, David completely collapsed. He discovered that Skylar had been in contact with Mark for a very long time. It was she who had pressured Mark to change himself, to hit the gym, diet, and become perfect according to her ideal. It was then that I realized Mark's transformation wasn't for his own good, but for love. Oh my God, but that was just the beginning. Skylar's true intention wasn't merely to cheat for self-gratification. She had a calculated, clear objective: to steal Mark from me. Why? Because Mark had a stable job with financial potential that David lacked. Skylar wanted a luxurious life, and she saw Mark as her ticket into that world. How disgusting! And so, from two strangers, Chloe and David, two victims of that cruel deception, we decided to form an alliance. We wouldn't let Mark and Skylar get away with this. This wasn't just my battle. It was the battle of two betrayed individuals, standing together to expose the true faces of those vicious betrayers. After learning the disgusting truth about Skylar, David also hired his own lawyer. And you know what? Our two lawyers worked together incredibly well. The divorce hearings were incredibly tense. Our lawyers presented all the undeniable evidence, the clandestine dating messages, hotel bills, and photos. Both David and I testified. I recounted how Mark had manipulated me, the story of that horrific night, and the evidence we'd collected. David also presented evidence of how Skylar had deceived him and how she meticulously planned to use Mark to achieve a wealthy lifestyle. When Mark heard that, he was utterly shocked. His face turned ashen. Yet his lawyer still tried to deny everything, still tried to twist the truth. They still tried to paint me as crazy and David as blindly jealous. But this time, their words held no weight. When the truth was laid bare, no amount of lies could cover it up anymore. And then, Judgment Day arrived. It felt like a massive weight had been lifted. Mark and Skylar were completely exposed in court and to the public.
Mark was ordered to divide our assets fairly and pay me spousal support. More importantly, his reputation was utterly destroyed, and the revelation that Skylar targeted him for his money completely shattered him. As for Skylar, she faced divorce from David and also lost Mark once her true motives were exposed. She became a social pariah, unable to show her face in public again. They paid a heavy price for what they did to David and me. It was the ending they deserved. That was my initial victory. It wasn't just a legal win, but a huge spiritual triumph. I had reclaimed my rights and exposed the true nature of those who tried to destroy me. Despite winning the case, healing my emotional wounds was a long process. Even after the verdict, I still felt empty. I had lost my job, all our mutual friends, and was still haunted by the deceit and cruelty I had endured. But fortunately, I had two amazing friends who were always by my side, Sarah and Ethan. They weren't just there when I fell, but also when I started to pick myself up. Sarah always encouraged me, spoke frankly, and did everything to make sure I didn't feel alone. As for Ethan, he truly was an angel in my life. He didn't just help me through the darkest days of unemployment and slander, but he patiently listened to me and helped me reevaluate everything. Then one day, Ethan invited me to the gym. At the time, I just thought of it as a way to escape my sadness. But you know what? Those gym sessions transformed me spectacularly. I wasn't working out to please anyone. I was doing it for myself, to improve my physical and mental health. Every drop of sweat was a sorrow washed away. My body gradually became more toned, I felt healthier, and most importantly, I began to realize my true beauty. It wasn't about my weight or my figure, it was about my strength and my will to overcome adversity. I started to find confidence from within, a confidence Mark had tried to strip away from me. Throughout my gym journey and recovery, Ethan and I spent a lot of time together. He was always patient, always encouraging, and always complimented me. He didn't just offer polite words, he helped me see my own worth, things I had never recognized in myself before. He saw my inner beauty, my resilience, and even the outer beauty I had once been so insecure about. Gradually, a gentle, sincere, and warm affection blossomed between us. It wasn't overwhelming or intense, but soft and genuine. Now looking back, I've not only regained my physique, but also completely transformed my demeanor. I am no longer the weak, insecure Chloe I once was. I am now a strong, confident, and radiant Chloe. I've found a new job at a different hospital. I'm even considering starting a side venture, perhaps counseling women who have experienced emotional abuse, because I understand better than anyone what that pain feels like, and I want to use my own story to help others. And that, my friends, is my entire story. Looking back now, I still can't believe how far I've come. This journey was long, my friends, but I made it through, and I believe anyone in my situation can too. Thank you for listening to today's story from the Guilty Notes channel. If this story resonated with you, please like, share this video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other emotional, real-life stories and valuable lessons. See you in the next video.